I blame the black church for bad politics on behalf of black people, right? Like, I think we are married to the Democratic Party. I think that is largely due to the influence that the Democratic Party has in the black church. And even if
Mm-hmm.
you are a black person who is not religious or doesn't go to church, you can't build a fence around the politics that come from the black church. It's interesting. The black church, in and of itself, as an institution, is probably conservative, but it backs and supports Democratic politicians almost on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it, I think that has handicapped us from being true political powerhouses because it's simple. It's simple math. If you continuously vote for one party at like a 90+ percentage rate, uh, they're not going to do for you the things that they're going to do for another demographic that votes for them half the time
Mm-hmm.
because they know they got a vote in the bag. I blame the black church for this. You know, every time there's a election coming up, what do politicians do? They stop by the community church, wherever the biggest church is in that borough, that's where they
Mm-hmm.
stop by, and they do their town hall and stuff. And then the voting happens, and you don't see them again until 2-4 years later. And it's that cyclical relationship. I think the black church has contributed to us being bad at playing the political game. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think for the most
Oh,
part,
before you start, this is all post civil rights movement, by the way. Go ahead.
I think for the most part, what we need to do is reintroduce what the parties stand for.
Mm.
Because I think for the most part that people are Democratic because they don't know, and I'm a Democrat, okay, and when I first registered, of course we helping out the poor, Al Sharpton. Hey, Jamal. Well, not Jamal Bryant. These people. Hey, hey. Apparently, that's what we're supposed to do. Help our community. We, especially us in the Bronx. I read something. Well, I was watching the Khalif Browder. You heard of Khalif Browder, right?
Oh yeah, that was a tragic.
And he's right there. He lived right 2 blocks from where I lived.
Mm.
And listening to that, kind of like it's the poorest congressional district in the country. I'm
Wow.
like, what? I live in the poorest congressional district in the country. I do some research on it. Um, so you have a lot of people, and of course they're going to be Democrats because they believe, or is what we're told, that's the party to help the poor people.
Yes.
So if we're all poor, then why are we not going to be the party to help the poor people?
Mm-hmm.
Even though everybody that lives in that district is not poor, certainly. I mean, I listen to you. Your parents, y'all have your house, and I lived in my building. I had to pay market value for rent, but I know most of the people in there didn't pay market value.
No, they did not.
I know somebody in there. He's actually very wealthy. He wound up leaving and going to moving to Connecticut. But that's we're the black church is full of a lot of people that are not very wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently that's the party that kind of goes with that demographic of people that are not wealthy people. So that's why we're going to be Democrats.
But even if the policies don't lead to any significant change, like I understand voting Democrat for like 10 years or 15 years, but when you look at our dedication to the party, I don't think the results have matched our dedication or support. Even close, to be honest with you.
And
Go ahead.
I don't think most of the time we even know who we're voting for.
I agree.
Okay. Now, I'll be very honest. I have voted people, and I don't know
So
who
have
they
I. So
are
have I.
and what they stand for
So that deep.
and whatever. I just, even in the primaries, we don't really pay attention to politics. Our local. I wouldn't even. Oh, okay, who I know, Ruben Diaz. Now I don't even know if he was in our
Your
area or
district.
not. My district. Okay. Who else was our district? Who was our district leaders or whatever? We don't know. Only thing we pretty much focus on is mayor, governor, and president.
Agreed. And now there's a conversation to be had. Probably, we're definitely going to do this again, running back. But there's a conversation to be had about how they purposely, construct these districts to make it complicated for us to follow the politics. Totally agree. But even if we focus on the big stuff, right, like mayor, governor, and president, we still seem to lean heavily Democrat.
Democrats.
And once again, this is not me saying that Republicans are the solution. My issue is that voting at a 90% clip for anybody, to me, is signs of people not knowing all the information. Because
absolutely, we don't know.
Natural human, like variant and thought would make it so that we vote maybe 85% for a Democrat and 15% of us vote Republican. But 90, 95, and we're the only minority group that votes like a block that way for the Democrats. Latinos don't do it. Asian Americans don't do it. Jewish Americans don't do it. It is only African Americans that vote like that. And I think in large part due to the influence of the Black church post civil rights movement. Because to me, the Black church post civil rights movement is not the same Black church pre civil rights movement.
Of course it's not.
MLK was considered the most dangerous Negro in America. We forget that. They've turned him into Santa Claus. He was a radical man. He was a radical man, fighting for racial justice,
going against the grain, against the system.
Also for the poor. People forget when he was assassinated, he was pretty much putting together the poor people's march.
For the trash people, for the sanitation workers.
Yes, that's what he was working on, is the economics. And I don't know. To me, I'm not blaming the church. I don't want that to come across that I'm blaming the Black church. It just feels like the Black church kind of fell into, and maybe this had to do with isn't there like a law that says that churches are tax exempt as long as they stay out of politics?
I don't know exactly how it's worded, but yes, you can be tax exempt. Churches would be tax exempt.
Tax exempt, right? But I think it's contingent on you can't preach politics over the pulpit, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that is the law, because that would explain why things changed so much post MLK. Because he was preaching politics from behind the pulpit. He wasn't having like separate meetings. He had the meetings, of course, as well.
Right.
But he was preaching his politics from behind the pulpit. That is what he did. He was very good at it. And so it would make sense that the government would add something to prevent the next MLK from rising.
Well, I think it's not necessarily preaching politics over the pulpit. I think it would be more so about the political structure of our country and endorsing certain people, because there's certain things. I mean, if we as a people, we have to tell we have to just preach truth. And if we're in bondage and we need to come out of bondage and we need to be free, then why can't I preach that? So I think it's more so as far as endorsing certain candidates, or I don't think it's necessarily about preaching politics or preaching certain things that are political, because when you deal with Israel back in bondage, it was a political thing. We want to be free, even when Jesus was born, at the time the mandate that all male child is supposed to be killed. We're coming up against that. We're going to fight up against that. We're going to fight up against injustices.